We can only do this for 8 hours.
Milo did that.
All right, so we're on. Welcome to the first real live stream from Apostasy Now. We've got a group of people who don't really know each other that well, but they've all been on the show. Why don't we start out by you guys letting us know who you are? We'll start with Jay.
Okay, my name is Jay. I go by JS Online. I'm the founder and co-admin of a Facebook page called Stop the Anti-Science Movement, and I'm also a writer for a comedy show on YouTube called Know the Truth.
Oh! Sorry!
And one of our guests is the owner of Microsoft.
And XP. I refuse to die.
How about you, Lauren? How about you go next?
Yeah, so my name is Lauren. My Twitter handle is just Lauren B, or you can find me. My name is Lauren Loves Lycus. You find me mostly on Twitter. That's really where I am right now. But I do work for A Voice for Men. Occasionally you can find me on the Honey Badgers, although it's been quite a while since I've been there. I'm just your average shit poster, and I have no problem speaking my mind, so yeah.
All right. Sheila?
Sheila Blackadder, formerly of A News. Not anymore, only because they're just not doing it right now. I also used to do Trolling with Logic on a regular basis. We're working on trying to get that going again.
Well, I hope they do.
Yeah, me too. I haven't done podcasts in so long. I'm going through withdrawals. You would not believe it. I have no idea how it's going to work. I'm on a new internet provider. I just relocated to Florida, so I don't know how it's going to run. We'll see. No promises.
Hopefully you're not in an area that gets washed away every year with the...
No, actually, there's no... I did look for that because there's a lot of places down here you can see the water damage lines like 3-4 feet up from the ground. But I'm far enough in from the coastline that I should be all right. And I'm on the second floor, so there's nothing else I can swim. Nothing else I can swim over everyone else.
Make sure you got food for your neighbors when they come crawling up.
Exactly.
Robert, who are you, Robert?
Oh, sorry. sorry. What? What? I'm being attacked. They're coming to get me. The social justice warriors. I'm a few hours ahead in Australia, and the zombie apocalypse has actually taken over. This may be my last broadcast. Down here in beautiful Down Under, Australia, and I'm the representative of the Dumb Down Atheist podcast, if you could call me a representative. And I gave up school to be a musician and podcaster, and I've been starting ever since. So thank you. That's it. Do I need to say anything else?
What part of Australia are you in?
Oh, all of me. Most of me is here.
I didn't say what part of you is in Australia.
I'm down in Victoria, which was named after... I'm looking in that direction so I can find my social justice warrior bits. Hang on. At the last minute, There we go. They're at my door. They're baying for me just because I did You name one podcast, you call it Gerald and Luther Tantrum Day, and they've come to get me. I know in beautiful Victoria, named after Queen Victoria, the prudish Queen of England. And as a result, we're almost as repressed as Canadians.
That's pretty tough. I don't know if you can do it, man.
But what did you say? I didn't get behind that accent. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, Canadians are crazy accents.
Yeah, Canadians are crazy accents. Get out. Yeah, and so...
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I'm talking about the boots on the other foot. And... So yes, I could be arrested at any moment.
Excellent. That'll make an interesting part of the show. show.
Nothing to do with the podcast, just my unpaid fines. And that's me. Thank you.
So I asked before, has any of the university type stuff spilled over in there? Are you getting any headlines for that, for the student activists that you're listening to right now? I don't have you. How many of you guys have actually watched the video of the that professor?
Several times.
Yes.
It's upsetting. I've been to university. I never watched any professors behaving like this. The worst part is when she calls for muscle. I need some muscle over here.
Yeah.
She sounds like she's like a mafia don or something.
So for anyone who's listening or anyone who hasn't watched it, essentially there was someone doing a hunger strike, and the protesters decided to make a circle on the campus, and this is a public area on the campus, and they were pushing people out and not letting even journalists in to see what was going on or take pictures. And one, what's that?
Keep going.
Yeah, well, there was one photographer who stood his ground in the sense that he knew it was his right to be there, and so they eventually, after harassing him, they actually shoved him out physically. And the person that was recording this, they apparently didn't realize he was standing there recording or something. He captured one professor refusing to say who she was, even though she was part of faculty life for students.
Melissa Click.
Yes.
That's quite
I
amazing.
add that she's actually the one who called out for reporters to show up. It was her idea. Like, she asked reporters to show up there.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah.
Well, you see, what they're doing is they're occupying sort of the... you remember when the Beatles came out and people burned their albums?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in the movie The Ruttles, people were actually buying the albums just to burn them. And I think that's the same sort of thing. Let's call the press to be here so that we can tell them they're not welcome.
Hey, you might be right. That still seems bizarre to me, but I guess it would get attention.
That just reminds me of the Christians right now boycotting Starbucks by buying their coffee and having "Write Merry Christmas" on it.
Exactly. Hang on, I've got to... I need some muscle over here. And I thought she already had one between her ears. But you know, just before this, you know what I had to laugh at, and I was watching, I think it was Thunderfoot's video, and that journalist who was being pushed, get your filthy hands off me, you bastard! And I had to laugh. There was a guy yelling out to him the whole time too. Why don't you admit it? You lost this one, brah. You lost this one, brah.
Yeah.
Why don't you admit it? You lost this one, brah. Which is very much a Eastern Soviet style. If you just barrage people long enough, hopefully they'll stop hugging. But I think the thing that made me laugh about him was, you know, he said, well, it's my First Amendment right as it is as much yours. And he was dripping in male white privilege, except he was Asian.
Right.
And so it was like, you know, it made absolutely no sense whatsoever in terms of that. And of course, universities are just these horrible bastions of racism and goodness knows what else. And yet, in the crowd there were people of all different skin colors and beliefs and stuff, with their parents lashing out $70,000 a year or whatever it is to send them there. And I mean, my heart was breaking. My heart was breaking just with the deprivation that was going on.
Yeah, I as of late, I have to watch the movie PCU like once a month just for some balance after hearing this stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen the film. If you haven't, watch it. It's hilarious.
What's it called, sorry?
PCU.
PCU?
It's an acronym for the school. Basically, the school it's like a fictional school in Oregon, I believe.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched it, but I remember reading a small article about it.
Yeah, so basically the entire school has been taken over by PC police, and everybody gets offended by everything. There's a group that protests absolutely everything on campus, and then you have this one. You can't really call them a fraternity, but they're a house on campus that are like the anti-PC people, and they basically essentially try to piss off the entire campus.
They're the
And
heroes.
yeah, they are the heroes of the show for sure, of the movie. But I advise watching it. It's really funny.
Well, I think it's getting to the point where you have to adopt that line, and it's like the poor scientist with sort of girly Hawaiian shirt, and there he was, beaming for joy that they landed a craft on an asteroid, and of course, in the audience, I'm offended by your shirt.
That your female friend made for you.
Yeah,
Right.
and I thought to myself at the time, yes, you could either shrink away like a little violet, or you need to turn around in that setting and say, now listen, with all due respect, you shut the fuck up. Because if you don't shut the fuck up, I will go away and get a matching jacket and pants made of the same
Yeah,
and a tie. I will take photos of myself and post them to you daily. Wait, why don't you just admit you lost this one, brah? You lost this one. Because
yeah, it's about drawing a line and standing up to. I remember the first time it really struck me that a group of feminists could act as bullies again. It just never occurred to me in the past. Was at Toronto University a few years back. Mm-hmm. They surrounded this room where they were having a peaceful talk with, I think Warren Farrell was there, so just about men's issues and stuff. They were not espousing violence or anything inside, and these people surrounded the room and were thumping and screaming so loud it sounded like war drums. It must have been really intimidating.
Then they ended up pulling the fire alarm, I think.
Yeah, that was, I think, the time they did that.
Yeah.
And once any group gets to be like that, you become the bullies. You become the aggressors.
See, I recently-ish found I was trolling through YouTube, as was my wont, squeezing blackheads and gross stuff. And for some reason, for a moment in time, I had this tiny moment of clarity. I found an old picture from a man back in the 80s. He had a very wide tie and disco pants, but we'll forgive him for that. And he was a Soviet government official, not quite KGB, but he worked with the KGB, and he defended Canada. So probably, okay. I don't know whether that's a plus or a minus, but anyway, he from there I think he somehow got into America, and he put out some videos about how the KGB and the old Soviet days of how they utilized useful idiots.
Yes.
And back then, he was more, saying the destabilizing influence of sort of your cultural Marxism and your socialism, because that's what is behind a lot of this crap, the rhetoric and the nonsense that comes out. And it's to make a bunch of people feel that the world they live in is terrible and needs to be overthrown. And this is what I'm getting from these people. We see it a lot here in Australia with a lot of stuff, and it's almost as if they can destabilize it, then they'll all draw up sides to see who wins. The useful idiots will then be put up against a wall and shot, and that's what this KGB guy was saying, that during the 60s and the stuff, there were a lot of Americans who were very sympathetic to the cause of the USSR and a lot of that sort of stuff. And this man came across a list of these people, and they were going to be the people that were going to be shot and killed once the revolution...
As a reward for their service.
As a reward for their service, because what they realized about these people is you've turned them into walking whinging machines. Yeah. They're not going to stop whinging when we take over. And boy, if they think it's bad now, wait till we're in charge.
But honestly, when I first started looking into what we now call social justice warriors, people who I just don't know any normal category to put them in, so we'll just call them that, I guess, social justice warriors. When I first started becoming familiar with them, some of the rhetoric of people who were already aware of this going on sounded crazy to me. So they would say things about they are Marxists, and I'd be like, roll my eyes, like, oh, okay, we're not going overboard or anything here. But their ideology really does stem from that crazy, strain of Marxism.
Yes,
a lot of them actually embrace that fact too. I got yelled at on the internet, I suppose, in text from some neo-feminist who had she's subscribing to the same like women's libers sort of variety of feminism that's so popular right now, and bragged about the fact that she was one of these Marxist feminists. I'm like, you're throwing it around like this is a good thing. It's just another extreme version of feminism. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, high. If you go enough up into the echelons of this nonsense, that is where it is stemming from, and it cuts across a whole swath, if you'll pardon the expression, of things that are going on in society. It's not just limited to this. These are all little tentacles of the same machine. Now, I may sound paranoid, and that's my job because everyone's out to get me. But from my opinion, to me, it is obviously glaring at me. Now, to others, it takes time to open their eyes and see this, but these are the things that, in my opinion, are going on, and it generally comes from a desire to destabilize, and that's what this is. These poor little children are espousing is that they are using their safe space to bully others, but really they're having their minds filled with crap when at a time they really need to kind of, well, basically grow up.
Yep.
Remember before the internet when there wasn't enough, these people couldn't connect with each other and they would just kind of come out and make a little bit of a rant and then they just kind of fade into the woodwork and we wouldn't hear anything else about it.
Well, in our capital city, Melbourne, we have a little group called the International Socialists, and in those days, the best they could do was sticky tape, their pamphlets to telegraph poles.
Right.
But of course now, yes, as with a lot of things, with the benefits of science, and they utilize all of those things to now spread the word, which is sort of science has become a bit of a victim of its own success because unfortunately we use the tools of people who have worked hard and used their intelligence to create a lot of stuff. So.
And then everyone else grabs onto it.
That's right.
Yeah, I combat it every day, so I see it. I come at it from a different angle, though, where I deal with a lot of people who are like anti-vaxxers and stuff like that. That they're complaining to me on the computer, this wonderful piece of technology that they're bouncing a signal off of a satellite to tell me that science is bad. And that is rather annoying.
It's as bad as watching ISIS and the Taliban and all those people use tools of science to recruit, followers and to do a lot of this stuff,
Let's tweet about how much we hate the Western world.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, on my breath. Yes.
We might have to do on Facebook. Tweets limited in characters.
I shall use my iPhone to quote, "Death to America! Death to America!"
Yeah. Scream about Israel and Jewish people, and then using Mark Zuckerberg's creation.
Lauren.
Yes.
Oh, you're still there. You're an American, right?
I am.
So, how much do you hear about this? I'm not sure which region of the U.S. you're in, so how much do you hear about down there?
Hear about what exactly?
Just the antics on campuses.
Well, I don't hear much of it per se, except for what I see online, and I'm very active on Twitter, so that's where I get a lot. The bulk of my information about these things that happen, all these hashtag activists. So I'm well aware of what's going on. Now, in my day-to-day, I don't really hear people talking about it. And I think I like that. I think I like the distance of not having to actually see these people face to face. Because if they heard what I actually had to say, I might be in danger of my life. It's really weird. They claim that they're oppressed and all these bad things are happening to them. But if you even try to explain how maybe they're wrong or maybe your views are not really all that you think that they are, they get violently angry.
Yeah.
They get extremely upset. And, you know, it's like they don't stop and think about what it is that they're saying. They just react. And that knee-jerk reaction is often just, you know, anger and violence. And, you know, at that point,
it's disturbing.
Right. It really is.
I've been called some of the ugliest things in the world just for fact-checking people before. So I'm glad like I was not face-to-face with them because, yeah, I'm pretty sure I would have gotten swung on.
Right.
So, one second. Anton, are you there right now?
Yeah.
You don't know much time. You want to say hi really quick?
Hi, really quick. Yeah, the plugin wasn't working. I didn't know that because usually if you just restart the computer, it'll be fine. But yeah, I installed the plugin non-trustingly, and then it was like, oh, welcome on. I was like, son of a bitch. Fucking Google. But apparently people don't like things, so things are bad.
I already let them know that you're a social justice warrior and that you crusade on campus.
That's my biggest hobby. Down with the what is it, dog triarchy? I don't know. And with that, yes, I have to go. So this is all for naught.
Oh, that sucks.
Well, no, I've been trying to get on for half an hour and I couldn't. So
yeah.
Anton, we have to do a hangout soon. We haven't talked.
I keep inviting you every Thursday, and you're like, I've got to watch my cat, and I'm like,
oh no, I didn't say cat. I said pussy.
Oh.
Well, I think someone had to say it, and it's now been said.
No, I didn't say it.
Oh, to hell with it, I'll say it. Pussy. Pussy. And I'll do it as a Rasta. Come on, show me that dirty pussy.
On that note.
All right, so that was Anton. Yeah, hopefully next time I have him here, he'll be able to connect a little easier.
Well, quite frankly, we never liked him anyway, really. I always thought he was a bit sort of soft on things. What I was going to say about our little social justice friends, their propensity towards violence is quite amazing, considering their manifesto would say that they're the other way.
Right.
But they get a little sort of look in their eyes. I don't know whether it's through eating too many mung beans and tofu. I'm not sure. But well, you know how like meat eaters are accused of having bloodlust. I think they get tofu lust, which sort of comes out in a quick bang and then fades away desperately through a lack of iron. But what? No, don't get me wrong. I love them all dearly. I would never say anything bad about them. But in the end, they come down to this thing. It's that thing of saying they know they're right. So if they have to occasionally punch someone in their head or get an old man to the ground and kick the living fuck out of him, the ends does justify the means, and that's very much a token of socialism. You know, back in the old days of the Soviets, or even in modern day, we know what a fantastic place that is. The use of that sort of stuff is quite justified because when you're right, you can do whatever you damn well want. That's what I see come from them. We had Geert Wilders visit this country, who is the Dutch politician who is very much an outspoken critic of Islam. I don't know if you know of him. Fairly good friends with Ayan Hurst Ali and others. Now, he represented a politician in his country, in Holland. And when he came here to give a speech, our little friends, the Socialist Alliance, turned up, and they had to keep his meeting in secret in the end because they feared for their safety with these people. An old man had just that very thing happen to him. He had his tickets ripped out of his hand outside the venue. He was pushed to the ground by these people, for the want of a better term. And you get to see in the end just how much these people hate free speech. Now, see, this is this recurrent theme that you're seeing with the students.
Right.
The other people I see speak out against free speech and to say to hell with democracy. Fundamental Islam. Look at all the banners and posts. Behead those who insult prophets and go to hell.
Do you think, when it comes to the campuses, do you think maybe one of the reasons that, first of all, okay, I'll run this past you, my theory. I think the reason it's a focus at that time, like with these students, why they're the focus of so many of these attempts to get them into this mindset, is because they haven't had enough life experience. They're adults, but they haven't had enough life experience to have those same things done to them yet.
Right.
So they're being introduced to a cause that they feel makes them a good person, but they have not had the life experience to temper their way of going about it.
Hence the expression, the road to hell is paved with good intention. And with these children, and they are still children, even though they may be of legal age, they are children because we live in a society, in my opinion now, that keeps us infantile.
Yes.
Grown-up people, I mean, far be it from me to agree with Anita Scarsesian, God forbid. but we have grown adult people who sit and play a PlayStation or an Xbox and put their heart and soul into the whole thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not against it. But what I'm saying is we live in a society where we're, as I say, we're a little bit victims of our own success. We have no shortage of toys. We have all these things that keep us immature. So those young minds, they go from primary school to secondary school and straight into this college, many of them very coddled. They are still children. And even though they're older, the old saying of the Jesuit priest, give me the child until he is 7 and I will give you the man. So these little minds are blank canvases.
Yeah.
And it's that danger that I said, whether it's fundamental Islam or social justice warriors or any one of a strict religious thing or any of those things, once you're convinced you're right, it sometimes is a very small step over that line to doing things that are completely evil and immoral because, after all, I'm right, so therefore it probably justifies it.
It's circular. It's circular reasoning. And
so it comes down to Geraldine Luther having a temper tantrum at someone who is part of the faculty. Many years ago, a person wouldn't have done that. You would have never done that to a teacher or someone like that because you were in a position. Now what we've done is we've handed these children, in my opinion, way more power than they deserve to have.
Yeah.
And I'm quite surprised. We're seeing it go through the military and a lot of stuff. So you might as well give a child a handgun and say, listen.
Well, that's why I was agreeing with you before that a line needs to be drawn. These are authority figures at the university, and they need to. I'm sorry if it's a risk to your career. Like I really do feel for you because it's a weird time you're living in. But someone needs to tell these children no.
Yes.
That is inappropriate.
Because they're all.
The thing is, you have to pick the right person to tell them no. And that's the worst part because if the wrong person tells them no, they'll get fired for sexism, racism, you name it. Somebody will come up with a reason why they're bigoted.
I'll do it.
That's the downside to giving somebody power, but not giving them any sort of responsibility to go with it.
Right.
You're not holding them responsible for whatever they're doing. You're just saying, okay, here's your power to do whatever you want. Go learn how to use it.
Because it sort of cuts across society in the fact too that they're all like little Justin Biebers. Each one of them is a little pop star, and it's not hard in the modern day society with YouTube and all the things. This is where look at this, listen to the irony, where people, maybe even like us, can get onto this and suddenly we think, oh, I'm a celebrity, I'm this, I'm that. Rather than in the old days, like people now are famous just for being famous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so you get a big sense of entitlement. Now I'm an old fart from way back, and I actually had to learn to play a musical instrument. I had to do a lot of things. I can use the technology to enhance, far be it from blowing my own trumpet, but I will, musical talent. But we are now in this disposable society. I saw an ad for Cubase music program the other day come across Facebook, and I clicked in and it said to people who want to use Cubase, don't have any musical talent? Hey, that's no problem. Cubase will help you create whatever.
That's it. Instant gratification. You can do anything you want. No effort necessary. Here's a ribbon for everybody.
Yes.
That's it. That's it. There's no degree of difficulty. Everyone gets a prize for taking part. Everyone's being told they're wonderful. And I think that's incredibly dangerous. It comes across with helicopter picking across a lot of stuff. Oh, shut up. Let some other people talk now.
Well, with an example that my perspective on this is when I make musical stuff for my show, I'm doing it all on a computer, so I never refer to myself as a musician. I know some other people do. That's just my own choice. I don't see arranging stuff on a computer as musical. I'll say it's artistic, but I will not say it's because there's just so much discipline that goes into learning instruments and singing that I don't possess. Seems like it should be a different category, definitely, to me.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely.
Yeah, I
and yet,
spent hundreds of hours all the way through middle school and high school playing a variety of instruments, and I would have to agree with you on that. It takes a lot of time and practice and effort and you know, sort of a discipline to do it, and you don't have to do that with. I mean, my kid makes like dubstep and electronic music and stuff, and it's good, but I can't necessarily say that he's a musician. I would more call him a DJ.
Yeah.
Right.
The funny thing is, but I was going to say, people are not being rewarded for their hard work. In today's world, if 4 young guys, just for the sake of the name, call them Paul, George, Ringo, and John, they had the equivalent of like a Mac Pro book with music software on it. Can you imagine the music? Can you imagine the music those 4 guys would actually turn? And it's not as if there aren't people still of talent. It's not as if there aren't young people that have their heads screwed on properly and are intelligent people. It's just that they're getting pushed to the background, and so the top 40 of today is full of shit. I mean, I quote Fifth Dimension, or Fifth Harmony, or whatever they're called. Most of it is somebody took a shit on the console and then they sprayed No, I don't want to be too gruesome here. They sprayed furniture polish on it, took a photo of it, and then put it up for download.
I know back in the zenith of Britney Spears' career, the person that wrote a couple of her big hits, he would work as an artist. He was a mathematician. He was not a musician, and he made the music.
So anyway, getting off the subject of music, but what I'm saying is, I think that is something that cuts through. Now, I can say this because I'm officially old man, a grumpy, bitchy, whinging old man, just like Keith Richards, only without the money.
Well, I know a couple of times I've seen examples in the news of I know one of the cases it was a feminist faculty member, and I forget what she did, but feminist students and a couple other, I guess, faculty members got so angry they wanted her to be disciplined. I wish I could remember the details now. But this was...
Do you mean like put on a spanking bench, that kind of discipline?
Like, they wanted her fired.
Kind of discipline? With a safe word?
No safe word here.
Oh, okay. So the real kind of discipline. All right. Okay. Not play game fun. No, keep going. Don't mind me.
It was, I think, something to do with the fact that she just felt that she should stick to the actual curriculum in some way, the facts of the matter, and
how dare she?
Yeah. So, but you'll find this if someone goes online, you can find examples of, it's not just in the terms of feminism, but there'll be feminists who are being attacked because they're not extreme enough.
Yeah.
Or the other example is you'll find very articulate, intelligent black people online, if you go and look for them, explaining why they have a different point of view than what the social justice warrior people do, and they'll get called, Uncle Tom.
Yeah. Aunt Jemima, that's
house nigger. Yep.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah. It blows my mind.
It is a terrible situation because that's the groupthink mentality that will iron out any individualism. Yeah.
They are the Borg. Or for Doctor Who fans, I guess they are the Cybermen.
Yes, they are.
I like the Borg more because they shoot those little things out in people's necks.
You crazy Canadians. It's the bad weather, isn't it? It's the bad weather. It keeps you all at home, and you don't go out much.
It's dark here now, a little after 5, so we're not quite right. So should we touch on how this might relate to controversies with the attacks that are going on? Because Islam is often brought in by the social justice warriors as well. How do you guys feel at this?
Oh my God! Don't get me started! Don't get me started!
Can I just say one thing once and for all? You cannot be racist against an ideology.
Thank you. No, you cannot.
I'm so sick of that fucking argument. It drives me insane.
Well, one of the interesting things, ironically, we're talking about university. One of the things I've told people is that there's a different experience for everyone, depending on just who you are and what you're taking. But the common thing you should always get is by the time you leave university, you should know how to critically reason and defend your arguments.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what you take, that you should be able to do that. And this is where they're failing across the board. You're just mentioning a distinction that should be very simple. Once you point it out for people to discuss intelligently, there's issues of race, but this is a religion or an ideology, more specifically, which people of all races can be involved in and are to some extent.
Yep.
And they will just swipe it aside. I disagree, and therefore.
See, the thing is, like, I get asked a lot, like, especially more back when I was more into the atheist community or whatever, why do you go after Christianity more than you do Islam? It's like, well, because it's more prevalent in my life. I'm not really worried about Sharia law, but I'm worried about my kids learning creationism in science class. So that's the big thing for me. So when it does come to Islam, I'm kind of just like, I just take a back seat and go, well, that sucks, but at least it wasn't in my backyard. Yeah, I know I'm kind of a dick for that, but I admit it.
I used to be along those lines, but in the podcast that I've been at, I'm afraid the glaring obvious tends to get those. I'm opponent of Islam, and there are reasons why. I understand why the politically corrects feel it's a racist attack, because there are more people with brown skin who are Muslims, but not all of them. And then, of course, the minute you criticize it, people say, oh, but what about the Westboro Baptists? Now, a skeptical atheist in Melbourne here put up a very interesting tweet, which was retweeted by Richard Dawkins, and he said that it's a pity that ISIS aren't Westboro Baptists, because at least the Westboro Baptists don't kill people. They may be offensive, they may do horrible things, they may make you want to vomit, but they actually don't kill people. And until Islam has its reformation in the way that Christianity did, I don't think it's such a bad thing for atheists to be very vocal about Islam. If you are in a Christian, if you're of the faith, you depending on the little culture you're in, you may well be shunned by your family if you're a Jehovah's Witness or something like that, or a Christian Brethren. But the penalty for leaving isn't death, and leaving is death. And I have a friend who is a moderate Islamic person, and I got into a conversation with him, and I said, well, it is death. And he went, oh, well, I wouldn't kill you, but that's God. I can't speak for God, so I won't harm you. But I still don't agree that the penalty for leaving should be death. Now, there are some very big difference between Christians, and I know Christians can get up your nose, and I know at times they can be downright. Yes, 3 years ago they were fighting crusades, but you have to work in the presence of what's going on now. Now, I'm sure if Islam gets defeated, I'm sure Christianity will rise up and take its place. And deal with that comes.
Hey,
and that's.
Hey, Rob, do you mind if I?
Yes.
Can I try turning your video off to see if your audio improves a little bit? Every now and then you're chopping out. I think it's just because.
I can I'll turn it down.
Because Google hates. What's that?
Better? I'll turn it down. Is that better?
No. It's not that. It's your signal. So
It's
your audio is perfect.
It's your bandwidth.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
sorry.
if I turn your, like, I'm going to keep your audio on, but if I turn your video off, is that okay?
Yes.
All right.
Where did everybody go? I can't see. I can't see. Oh, no! Hey, shut up, you moron. You got your eyes closed.
All right.
Down, you guys. I'm finished now.
Yeah, you can turn your audio back up if you want. Like it was perfect the way it was.
Testes, 1, 2, ovaries and out. Testes. Testes, 1,
Yeah,
2.
if you guys haven't listened to Rob's show, Dumb Down Atheist, he's hilarious. You should give it a try.
Yeah, if you can. If you do. Anyway, the last one was called Gerald and Luther Tantrum Day, by the way. And it's got me the most listeners in the shortest amount of time. And it's not too politically incorrect to say that I did. It was a spoof of Martin Luther King Day, Gerald and Luther Tantrum Day. I'm not knocking it because it's got me about 500 more people in a short time. So I love them all. I love you all too, by the way. Each and every one. Could somebody say something? Otherwise, I won't stop talking. Anyway, I didn't want to be here today. I was coming into my studio to finish recording a song, and I get a message from some Canadian beard person, and I think, oh God, he's going to keep annoying me until I do it. All right, I'll do it.
It's the secret of my success: irritation.
Just like an oyster with a pearl.
I think when it comes to these types of discussions, one of the distinctions that I find often is not made is, okay, so if people want to talk about in this case we're talking about Islam, if they want to talk to me about programs put in place to help integrate new immigrants to the country, Islamic or otherwise, I'm always up for that. I mean, that benefits everybody.
They do that in Norway.
What's that?
They do that in Norway.
About integration programs?
Yep. Yeah, you have to actually go through a class and stuff when you first move to the country. And each city has their own, it's kind of like a community college type thing, but you have to go for like a class a week or something, and they teach you about their culture.
Yeah, I mean, even more wider than that. I mean, it programs to make sure that they're getting opportunities and trying to, be a productive part of society. Totally down for that. And there's all kinds of positions you can take on the various elements. Where I find a distinction is when we talk about anyone who decides that the tenet that Rob was just mentioning, that apostates should be put to death, people who leave the faith. Totally unacceptable. I can see that as a complete distinction from helping them, integrate into society. Some people can't seem to make that distinction. As soon as you mention, I don't think that one tenet is good, it's completely unacceptable. Oh, you hate them. You want them all to be, whatever, destroyed.
You're a racist!
Yeah.
Racist! Racist! Why don't you dwarf yourself with a swastika and be done with it?
They want to oversimplify everything, and I think that's the sign, really, of a cultish or unthinking mind, is to just want everything to be a simple black and white. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys. You're with us, you're against us.
If I can interject here, I'm gonna play a bit of devil's advocate.
Sure.
Because it strikes me a little odd that having a class to integrate Muslims into the rest of the world who are not Muslims, and maybe I'm wrong here. Please, let's have this discussion, but it kind of reminds me of the students who are now being taught not to rape. The whole, you have to teach men not to rape. Well,
I guess it depends on what they're teaching, right? I guess to be specific, if they're offering knowledge to make sure that they understand basically what's going on around them in this society they've come to, that's one thing.
And it's not just Muslims either. It's all people who migrate, to that country.
Yeah, I agree. They shouldn't be saying to them, you can't believe in Allah or Muhammad, interfering with their religious beliefs. But at the same time, it should incidentally give them the idea of what is or isn't acceptable social sort of behavior when it comes to how do I put this? If in their country they come from, let's just take it away from being specific to Muslim, if they're allowed to beat their wife, this would be a good place for them to find out you'll get in trouble if you beat your wife. That would be an example of okay.
No, that. Oh
And you
my
cannot
God.
kill your daughter. You cannot kill your daughter if she happens to get raped.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And please don't. And please do not circumcise your 6-year-old daughter, even if you accidentally fall forward with a pair of scissors and you swear it was a mistake.
And
I was going to open up a parcel, and I slipped on my prayer mat. You wouldn't believe it. Right at that very moment, the unthinkable happened, and I'm awfully sorry.
And I think that also maybe they could add to such a curriculum that tell women that are already in the Western civilization, just to make sure they all know that you can't beat your husband as well.
Well, yeah, well.
We'll tack that on right away for fairness sake.
I need you to record that and send it to me. I need to play it for my wife.
But the interesting thing, though, with those classes and with a lot of stuff is that whilst you can say all that, the Quran actually tells you different, because the Quran does say that you can beat your wife.
Yeah, this is the difficulty. The tone that I take with these discussions is I talk about reform, because you can find stuff in the Christian Bible, and most of my family is Christian, so I've had plenty of debates about this stuff. And I'll point out to them, it says right here in the Bible that such, point A, point B, but you only do A and you never do B. In fact, you think it's wrong. That is the power of reform.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly, and it's not just Muslims. I think it's
Right.
people of all faiths. It's some from column A, some from column B. They don't practice their religion as as written out in their respective Bibles or Qurans or religious tenements. So how can you call yourself then a good Christian or a good Muslim if you only do the things that apply to you? And that is what really drove me away from religion as a whole. And I will say a little known fact about me. I actually converted to Islam at one point in my life.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, you're in big trouble because the way you're talking, you left. Oh, I'd watch out. I'd watch out for those infrared dots that appear. Oh.
So, I look at it from both sides of the coin. Now, I can say that I did not read the Quran front to back, and it didn't take me long to abandon religion altogether. But I took the very good parts of Islam and applied them to my life, because I think that is naturally who I am. I'm very humble. I'm very soft-spoken. I don't, well, not now.
On this live stream, I am very humble.
But I don't do things to other people that I would not want done to me, and that's why religion for me as a whole is just bullshit, because the people who are the most devout are the ones who do the worst shit.
Yeah.
It's cherry picking at its finest. I mean,
right.
Like if you take a look at the Christians in America who have come out very homophobic over the last year or two, if you were to take their religion away, they would use another excuse. You know, they'd
Right.
still be saying it's not natural, but God would not be a part of it. So they're basically just hiding behind their religion.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah,
those are the ones fucking the kids.
yeah, exactly.
Every time you hear one of these super religious people, and we've got to put a ban on homosexuality and a ban on pedophilia, those are the ones that are doing it the most.
Yeah, they're the ones
Yeah.
who are getting caught with a 15-year-old Filipino kid and a fucking
Right.
ounce of meth in a seedy hotel bathroom.
Right.
I think
That-
I think the easiest thing is just not to grant religious freedom to break laws. I mean,
Yes.
every
Yes.
civilized country has established laws, and most of them include there's no murdering and there's no stealing and there's no there's a whole bunch of laws that most of us agree on are just simply wrong. And I think if you just don't grant religious freedom to break the most egregious of these laws, then there shouldn't really be an issue. Yes, you can practice your religion, but as long as that religion is not causing harm to another person or breaking the established laws in the countries that you're trying to migrate to.
Right.
Migrate
And what I find really interesting is that the religious people like to say that without religion there would be no morality. But they also break laws. So like, how moral are they? I mean, I don't think that you need religion to be a moral person. I think you just have to not want harm to come to yourself and understand that, if you don't do bad things to other people, then they probably won't do bad things to you.
Right.
I don't need...
I was going to say, very few societies tend to exist for a long, long time without some form of morality, and so morality was around before the writing of the Bible, because
Yes.
it tends to be how humankind, do things like invent automobiles and roads and things and medicines and stuff, because without others, none of that exists. So it is something that's within us, whether it's come about as an accident of evolution or any of those things, who knows, but it is there. But the thing I would say, though, is that when it comes to Christianity, there are very few Christians that actually really, truly practice their faith.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Westboro Baptists do not fully practice their faith, because if they did, they wouldn't just be putting up signs, God hates fags. They would be actively out killing
Stoning
homosexual
them.
Right.
Stones
Right.
and
So
stuff,
they even those 45 or however many little assholes sitting wherever they are, and they are a bunch of assholes, have even softened their stance. So as a result, they will all go to hell, because even they're not practicing fully their Christianity. They come closest to the harsh definition of living by the word of the Bible than any other Christians. The trouble that we have currently with Islam, though, is that there are many people who do follow it to the letter, and that they are our biggest problem, in the fact that they will not obey the law of the land, because the law of the Quran overrides that. And that is where, at the moment, we have our biggest hassle. That's our biggest hassle at the moment. That's not to say in the future we won't have something else.
Well,
Right at the moment, there are young people being indoctrinated into it, and they will not accept living amongst the kafar, which, by the way, is all of us.
Yay! Kafar party at my place.
And that is why I ride harder against Islam than I do against Christianity.
I'm just going through at the beginning. I'm just at the beginning of an audiobook. It's called The Righteous Mind, and there's some stuff in there. I'm not sure where he's going with some of it, but it was recommended by a couple people, and it's a very interesting point where he says, from the perspective of evolutionary psychology, our assumption as society, even in academia, is that religion is our attempt to explain things we don't understand in the world. However, his proposal, based on evolutionary psychology, is that it's our attempt to organize the world, not necessarily explain it.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's a very different perspective. It's very interesting when you start going back to all your assumptions about where this goes wrong. We're talking about people being moral without religion. Well, perhaps, that's because we no longer need certain behavior organized by religion. We learn it growing up at a young age, and it's reinforced by society around us that, if you go around hitting people, you end up in the principal's office, you get expelled, you start getting in trouble at a young age. Where maybe in the past, rules were different depending on where you lived. Violence might have been a positive in your personal life, but a negative for society.
Now, that's right. I was going to say, and the danger with your SJWs, your politically corrects, your people who don't like to tread on toes, all of those things, and this is where that movement says, well, we live in a patriarchy, but we give Islamic men a pass who are completely violent. We speak up for women's rights, but we don't mind women having to wear the burqa. It's a very much a thing that is borne out. Now, what happened a few weeks ago in Australia was a state school run by the state, not religious, allowed a large portion of Muslim students to get up and leave the assembly while the Australian anthem was being sung. Because at the moment they were having a period of mourning for Muhammad's son or grandson, who brilliantly and beautifully martyred himself in some vicious war. And so for the period that they quote unquote celebrate that, they're not to have any joy in their lives. So the well-meaning so it's the
opposite of a holiday. It's a misery.
So the well-meaning, probably lefty ratbag teachers, who are all lovely and meant well, before the anthem sung, said, "Now, if this goes against your culture, children, we'd like to usher you up and send you out so you don't have to take part in singing the anthem to our country." Now, this is what I mean about pandering. This is the reason why I fought so hard, really, and are very vocal, and why you should be vocal against things like that, so that you don't tolerate that nonsense. And it's the same thing keeping Christianity out of our state schools, where they got half an hour of our curriculum time.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about that.
Because then children
religious teaching at school.
That's right. Because then children in the playground afterwards are wearing their little Jesus badges, and they've got their little packet of sweets that have been given to them. The other children go, "I didn't get any of those because I wasn't in the class." So you're setting up a two-tier. You're saying you are different. And that was my greatest bugbear to those children being exempt from singing the national anthem. And it arps back to, and it's just as bad as Christianity, where we celebrate some poor bastard being nailed to a tree with blood pouring out of them and suffering, in the same way that these little children have to go through a period of celebrating the martyrdom of some brutal, vicious warlord's grandchild. And that's why it is important to speak out, no matter how unpopular you are, because I've spoken out and people have said to me, "Oh, well, you should just respect their culture." And I go, "No, fuck the culture." Their parents came to our country, we took them in, we gave them social welfare, we re-established them.
Well,
there's
also a misconception, like a myth out there, that none of them integrate, that none of them adjust, and that's not true. The ones we hear about, the ones we're hearing about, the ones that you're talking about, that cause the sort of this conflict, are the ones that are like, we're here now, everyone else change. That's where the conflict starts.
Yeah. That's what I mean. The annoying thing about allowing those children to leave is you're saying to them, well, obviously you are different. In my opinion, that does more harm than good, because you're saying to them, don't pay any respect to the country you're in. You're obviously different and you're exempt from this. I feel the same way about Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists in our country, who also won't take part in the national anthem. They refuse to respect the flag of the country. Now, I don't care what the flag is. I don't care what the anthem is. I don't care if we were singing Three Blind Mice. The point is, it's a certain amount of symbolism where you look at the country you're in and you feel some form of gratitude that you live in a place that's pretty damn good. And that's why I was vocal against that. Of course, that makes me incredibly politically incorrect, but well, that's my take on it, you know.
Yep.
I think you're doing more to cause social division by telling those children.
Division versus integration.
That's right.
The lessons that we could have learned from, brilliant thinkers like Dr. King, which is segregation is what's going to widen problems. Integration is what helps us understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. And what made it worse was it wasn't the children that got up and said, "Oh, we're leaving. We don't want to put up with this." It was the so-called well-meaning, politically correct people who said, "Oh, well, we better let them go then."
What is
amazing
to me though? What is amazing to me though, like the hashtag that came out, "Not Your Shield," really highlighted this. Is when you have people who are not straight, white, whatever, they're women, and they get out and they go, "Well, we disagree with what you social justice warriors are saying," and they just turn around and go, "Oh, you're actually just all white men in disguise."
Yep.
That's not belittling at all, or.
Well, and it's not just belittling to the person that you're talking to, but you're also insulting every white man on the planet because now you're using them as an insult.
Right.
Yeah, it is a terrible situation because also that's right. You are setting people up against each other because you could have some poor old white guy who's never harmed anything in his life, and all of a sudden one day he feels the sting of exclusion by being told he is to blame for everything that's ever happened. And it's like if you beat a dog for long enough, you will turn it vicious. If you exclude a person, whatever, you will in the end make them think, "Oh, well, fuck you then." And that is no way to run the world. If white males feel some guilt over something that may have happened, it would be better to let them develop that from within and bring it out and say fair enough and shake hands and let's get on with things instead of this, because this bullshit that's going on with the SJW is a thing that is going to perpetuate forever. No matter how much apologizing you do to those people, you will never ever make good.
It only makes them worse. It
makes it worse. Now you look at Nelson Mandela when he gained power in South Africa. When you look at all the horrible things that had happened to him through the years of white rule, he could have unleashed absolute Armageddon on that country. And some people would have said, rightly so, look at how he was treated. But he came in and even to his former enemies and said, okay, well, now we need to bring the country forward. And South Africa was very much helped by the fact that it was a very peaceful handover. And there would have been many people prior to that who would have said there was no way something like that could have happened.
I miss the late 80s, early 90s when the PC crowd was laughed at. And now they're supposed to be, everybody treats them as if they have some kind of power, and the more they're treated like that, the more power they actually get. I'm gonna go back to the 80s when we were just laughing at them for being stupid.
The other day I was watching some clips of Married with Children, and I was like, "There's no way this show could be put on today. There's no way."
No way.
You know what I vote? I think we should start a movement. You know how they like to throw cream pies at various politicians they don't like? I think we should have a week or a day set aside to throw a cream pie in a social justice warrior's face. So when they went on that campus, don't you push me, and then you Three Stooges style pull a cream pie. And I don't mean the kind of cream pie that's in a sexual sense, you filthy lot. I'm talking about the old-fashioned lemon meringue topped with cream, and we should put a pie in the face of all social justice warriors everywhere.
Your privilege is showing.
Thank you very much. I've been growing it for years. I think that would work, and people nowadays too. Everyone's got a mobile phone; they'd be filming it everywhere. Can you imagine how much fun YouTube would be? You imagine Anita sees a cesarean Shah, stands up. I am here to talk about GTA. Wallop! Pie straight in the face.
Well, they put a pie in one of our prime minister's faces, so.
Well, that's being Canadian. That does happen.
And then they apologize for it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'd pay to see that. I would pay to see that. I would. I haven't brought the tone down here, have I?
we're all wondering how to follow that one up, and it's solution pies.
What a pie! I'm starting that up. Listen, you're witnesses to. I thought of it first.
Got a hashtag like cream pie SJW or something.
Yeah, I'm doing it for the Socialist Alliance in this country. I'm going there with a bunch of rednecks. We're all going to have pies. And I say, ready, fire and well, men, fire and well. That'd confuse them, I reckon. And what's more, probably most of them are vegan. So I say put some meat in there as well.
Yeah, like
yeah.
a steak and kidney pie.
Do we have any vegans on the panel today? Any vegans?
Don't believe so. No.
No.
Shepherd's pie could work.
A shepherd's pie, a vegan.
Are you guys able to see this picture I've got here?
Yeah.
Yes, I can see it. Yes,
I just wanted to remind you of what we would not have if South Africa had not turned out so well. You were talking about Nelson Mandela before,
yes.
if he had destroyed everyone. So here we're glad that we have these guys.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. That is very much a case of let's forgive, work it out, and move on. And I think it's something that the human race. I think we have done it, throughout history at times. But I think we're back in a period where we've forgotten a lot of stuff. But it is basically the only way forward. Some of us need to toughen up a bit. Not be so sensitive about some shit.
Mm-hmm.
There is stuff out there that's funny. It may be incorrect. It may be a lot of things. But it is funny, and it's about time some of us started to learn to laugh at ourselves. I do every morning when I look in the mirror. I tell you.
I'm a firm believer that in the correct context, any subject can be funny.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Absolutely.
Except for rape jokes.
No. I mean, George Carlin covered that the best. He's like, they tell me that you can't joke about rape. Rape's not funny. Fuck you. I find it hilarious. Imagine poor pig raping Elmer Fudd.
I do remember that, but I think sometimes too, sensitivity sometimes comes from within. There are times even someone like me doesn't say what's on his mind, although most of the time I do. I think the difference comes with a lot of people when they start dictating it to people about what is and what isn't.
Yeah.
That's where you get that. This is where we're getting into the danger zone with a lot of this. And in the past, there have been probably some absolute atrocities that people have made fun of. It's that thing of gallows humor. On British TV many years ago, you had programs like Love Thy Neighbour, which probably, being a Canadian, you've probably seen because you're like us, you get indoctrinated with a lot of BBC. And Love Thy Neighbour was a program that was written to try and foster the awareness of sort of blatant racism. So you had a predominantly white cast, and then you had a couple who were from Trinidad. And so the whole comedy hinged on Eddie Booth, the white racist, and Bill, who had moved in next door, and he was calling him Sambo and all this stuff, and Nig Nog, and it was absolutely offensive. But the point of it was
I can't stop laughing.
Like, look it up on YouTube. It's a real program, and you had.
I have.
And you had programs like in America, All in the Family with Archie Bunker. In Britain, the original program that was Till Death Us Do Part. So there was all sorts of offensive racist things going on in it. The shows were funny, and as a child, they actually did more to me to instill the message of racism by handling it in what could be considered an offensive yet funny way. It actually did a lot more for me as a white little boy living in the black block, not the black box, the back blocks, to get the message across in a way where you kind of went, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I get it, which is better than having someone put their foot on your throat. You know what I mean?
Right.
No one's going to... Yes.
That's why I get upset. That's why I get upset when people say that things like Family Guy or South Park are racist or not politically correct. It's like they're satire. And
Yeah.
what they're doing
That's
is
it.
they're satirically pointing out stupid people think this way. So basically what they're doing is, they're making sure that shit isn't getting swept under the rug. And I think that's really important. A lot of the stuff that I write, Corey's seen some of the stuff I post on Facebook, is a lot like that, where I won't come directly out and say, look, don't act this way, but I'll make something funny about it to make it look like I'm an asshole, but it gets people thinking.
Yeah.
And the danger of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because there are topics that are funny. It doesn't necessarily mean you're being offensive. There is a line between being incredibly offensive. There's a line about, I mean, there are things like you might make jokes of Jewish stereotypes, and let's face it, on the Howard Stern show that happens all the time, and he's Jewish himself.
Right.
Yep.
They're not afraid to go into territories and make jokes of a racial nature, but I wouldn't say anyone on the show is racist. So there's a difference between making jokes about Jewish people being incredibly tight with their money or some sort of stereotype. There's a vast difference between that and Adolf Hitler marching them off in trains and putting them in camps.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
You should never get to the point where you can't have a laugh about something. It's if you are laughing at someone, be happy to have them laugh at you, because what harm are you really doing?
I will be fair enough. There's a distinction between someone telling a joke on a stage and someone kicking you in the balls and then laughing at you like it's a punchline.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's the difference. And so the road to hell's paved with good intentions. So you have these naive children who are social justice warriors. I'm sure in their heart of hearts they think they're doing the right thing, but we have to be careful. Sometimes I think maybe the younger generation looks at the world and thinks, how on earth did it ever get along before we got here? Well, guess what? It did, you know what I mean? It did. We didn't fall apart. We had our ups and downs, but yep.
I think the distinguishing line becomes very easy is that question that I've had on the show, the clip I've used from Hitchens when he was in Canada, actually defending free speech. He said, "Who gets to decide?" And when the person looks at you and goes, "Well, we're right, so we get to decide," then you know that they have crossed the line of being now they're opposed to free speech and fundamental freedoms based on their ideology.
Right.
It's an excellent question.
And we suffer a little more being Canadians and Australians, because I'm pretty sure in Canada you don't have a Bill of Rights where free speech is ingrained in it either.
Well, we have the charter of it was the original Trudeau, not the one that's in now. His father in the '60s, he put in the or is it the '70s? He put in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So we have the freedom of expression, and it's only limited. Supposedly, it's only supposed to be limited when it comes up against somebody else's freedom in a destructive way. So in other words, if for some reason you go into someone's house in the middle of the night, you break in and you start telling them what you think, your freedom of expression is trumped by their right to have personal property and autonomy.
So Canadian breaking and entering is just going in there and telling them that they're wrong?
I can't believe you voted for Harper last election. Was anything taken? My pride.
Oh my God, you have the worst beer in your fridge.
Is it maple syrup flavored, is it?
That's right. Well, apparently we've got harsh beer. I don't know if things have changed in the last decade. Probably not. I thought it was like a running joke that American beer was much lighter, like so much lighter. I took a trip to Manhattan. This is like over 10 years ago, and I tried some of the beer there that all the Americans were drinking, and I couldn't finish it.
No, I
Depends
don't drink beer. If I do, I like microbrews, and it's not because I'm like some kind of hipster.
Sure.
But no, they're so much stronger. They're so much stronger. They usually taste better. I've traveled a lot, and I remember when I was in Austria, sat down for a dinner at this place, and ordered a beer in the restaurant. And it came basically in a bucket, and my first sip, I remember my first sip. I was like, "Where the fuck have you been all my life?" Like, it was the perfect beer.
That was the beginning of his alcoholism and spiral down.
Basically, it was. I was 16 at the time.
Well, of course, in Australia we are famous for our Australian beers, and they're beers for men. Let me tell you.
Fosters.
No, only Americans drink Fosters. Australians
England.
don't.
It's popular in England too, and Great Britain in general. Foster's is.
Yeah, well, that's our way of getting even with them. But, there is a saying there's a saying in Australia that says, "I'd rather leave the party than have to continue on drinking Fosters."
It's on their money.
That's right. The other Australian beers, believe me, come up as quick as they go down, and it's made us famous here for regurgitating. But yes, how did we get onto this topic?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Maybe it's the tradition that most of these shows, when people do this, they're all drinking alcohol.
It's too early for me because it's only 11:15 in the morning. But I am in the future. I'm in Monday. You are
right.
you are yesterday's people.
I was talking to Adam Kochi the other day about how you guys didn't even warn Europe about those attacks that were coming, and you're a day ahead.
It goes to show that Australians are indeed bastards.
I actually saw a legit tweet that this girl made about the 9/11 attacks and why China didn't warn us.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, you've got to keep Sarah Palin out of this.
Well, look, this is why Doctor Who and Back to the Future don't try and spend a lot of time explaining time travel or making it even make sense if it gets to the way of a good story, because most of us can't understand time anyways. Time zones are difficult enough.
I will let you know then in advance. I woke up this morning to Australian breakfast news television, and I'm just letting you know France at this stage, it could be more now, have dropped 20 bombs on ISIS as part of the war. Just letting you know that in case it might take you another 8 to 12 hours to catch up on it.
That was in Syria, wasn't it?
Yeah. Two big strongholds in Syria.
Now you know what I find somewhat amusing about this. The French knew they were there, which means the rest of us must have known they were there. So why have we been tolerant? They said one of them was a training camp. So I therefore asked the question: why on earth have we been tolerating this for so long? If the French knew they were there, everyone else knew they were there.
I think there's a lot of concern. This is just my guess. At the strategic level, there's a lot of concern about how badly they fucked up Iraq. And I think they've lost a lot of confidence that they can solve this problem very easily. So they hesitate a lot because they don't want to make it worse.
Yeah, but we were the ones who caused ISIS, so.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's right that we don't, or there's a lot of times I don't even know what to make of what they're. I do know that the problem of ISIS was generated by the war in Iraq. Yeah. There's a lot of evidence to support that. But it doesn't mean we should let them stay there. I mean, they're fucking cutting people's heads off and lining them up and shooting them and dumping them in the river. Clearly, something's got to be done. What it is, what's the best tactic? I don't know.
Yeah, I vote we bomb Saudi Arabia myself personally. You know. because the point is, they went to war in Iraq, but it was Saudis who committed 9/11.
Yeah,
and I will stick.
Saudi people, but they funded it.
Yeah. That's my neck out far enough to. Now I forgot what I was going to say now. To say that they still fund a lot of it. Now you can get into that whole thing. Had back in the 70s, people listened to some of the people who said we need to stop our reliance on oil, we wouldn't have made Saudi Arabia so rich, which would have helped a lot of this. And so yes, we have a certain amount of guilt plus invading. I mean. The second invasion of Iraq was just stupid because George Bush just wanted to stamp his feet and he needed to blame someone.
Yeah.
I think he probably had his dad whispering in his ear, "Hey, son, do what I never could."
He wanted to stop the nuclear threat.
Well, it goes back to the first one. So you had Iraq invading Kuwait or whatever it was, and then the troops were advancing, and the people of Iraq were told, "Hey, listen, rise up and get rid of all these people before we
Yeah, I
get
remember
there.
that.
We'll give you a huge pat on the back." And then at the 11th hour, they kind of went, "Oh no, we've changed our mind." So of course, it created an enormous amount of distrust. But you've got to look at a part of the world that's well, I put it this way, and it's probably a bit of a cynical way to look at things, but you can't plant the tree of democracy anywhere in the world where people are going to tread on it. We have democracy in our societies because everyone in their head goes, okay, I get this whole idea of democracy.
It's been an internal learning experience through a period of time.
That's right, and I don't think it transplants well to that part of the world.
Well, no one likes having a government shoved on them. No one likes that. I mean,
no. So we've made some very disastrous decisions over the course of time. But a lot of these conflicts and things that go on have been going on long before we got there. You know, the Sunnis hate the Shiites, and the blah 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 blah, and on it goes. And there probably isn't an easy solution to it. But quite frankly, I don't blame the French at all for doing what they've done. Call me an old warmonger, but I have the blood of Winston Churchill in my veins, and I do think some of the leaders of yesteryear, quite frankly, if they were alive today, they'd be turning in their graves.
On a bit of a side tangent, I have actually only in the last couple of years started becoming aware of my own bias when it came to the. Now hear me out on this before you assume what I'm going to say. The full body coverings and the head coverings that they have in the Muslim countries, the hijab and the burqa.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying it right, but.
Yeah, you are.
I still find them to be.
Bit of a turn on? Yeah, me too.
For me, I find.
Yeah,
you know what? I've told there was a debate going on about the Spider-Woman comic book cover like a year ago, and all these different SJWs are getting upset about it, about how her ass was showing and stuff. It was just a comic book, right?
It may be a comic book to you. It's a manual of love to me.
So finally, I got so fed up with them all ganging up on me, I just put up a picture of a full body burqa. And I said, here's your inevitable conclusion. This is where you're going. I said, women don't need you to protect them from a comic book that's in line with all the other artwork in other comic books around it. You are
bastard!
You're telling them how they can look, how they can dress. These guys are all lefties, right? So they left me alone after that. I don't think they liked it.
No, you're not going to score tonight, that's for sure. No, but I think, too, women... Like, if you were dressed in that little Chairman Mao uniform that the Chinese used to wear, that's a bit of a hot little turn on as well. So I'd say I'm not fully against the burqa. If you're going to have it as part of a sex game, that's fine. But what
I was going to say is I had my bias about it. My bias about it is I still find it denigrating to women. I think it's unhealthy, obviously. But the thing that I was biased about is I assumed that men basically were responsible for the whole deal. And one of the things that's brought to my attention is that women pressure other women and attack other women for not dressing this way. And I had completely ignored that part. And I think that also belittles the role of women and their agency.
Well, see, but that is the brainwashing thing. That's no different to any other indoctrination. And if you want to bring up the subject of female circumcision, as you often do when you're having dinner.
Are we having roast beef?
Yes, we are. Really, really tiny little ones. And so in the African countries and a lot of places, it's the women who take the girls to be circumcised. Because if you want my opinion, I mean, it's Stockholm syndrome just on a very big level.
And when it comes to males...
It's like an initiation, right? They're helping them come into womanhood or whatever.
That's right.
When it comes to male circumcision over here, that shouldn't be a surprise, right? Because how often is it the guy who's like, well, I was circumcised, so my son will be circumcised? It's like that's the only reasoning most guys have until you actually stop them and go, have you ever thought about not doing it?
Yeah, well, look, I don't mind standing up and saying, as a child, I was as a as a baby. I was circumcised. Pretty much everyone in Australia was, unless you were of Catholic persuasion.
It was the fad, right? It was the
it was the sort of common medical belief that it was cleaner and easier and stopped infections and did a lot of stuff. Now, when my son was born, my then wife and I, went off to see the doctor, and she was like, "Oh well, we better get him circumcised." And I sort of went, "Well, not in this day and age." And she went, "Oh, but I think it looks neater." And I went, "Well, just because you think it looks neater doesn't mean it's
How much time is she going to spend looking at it?
Pardon?
When as the boy grows up and becomes an adult, and spend looking at it. What does it matter to her what it looks like?
Well, these are the sort of things, as I say, when you're brought up in some culture where it's like it's always been done this way. I think it looks better. It's like cutting the lawn. We keep the grass short, And it's like before I go into the subject of Brazilian waxes, I'll just finish my point. So the doctor said, well, look, we very, very rare these days. If people insist, it can be done. But he said, it goes back to the tradition of back in when people were in the desert and stuff, and sand and dirt and dust and things were a problem. But we live in a modern world where cleanliness is whatever, so it is an unnecessary procedure. It's only if later in life there can be complications, in which case it would be a medical procedure because someone's in pain because there's a problem. Yeah. But yes, no, we would. And of course, there's always the risk of the surgery going wrong, which can be very devastating.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Well, that's what I'm saying. So it was just a pot.
You can't jump in. You can't apologize if you jump in with Rob. You got to get in quick.
I know, right? I was just gonna say, when my son was born, unfortunately, I hadn't done quite enough research into it yet. So when they asked me, I was like, yeah, whatever, just have it done. But I didn't realize how freaking pointless it is. At the time, I kind of bought into that woo that it's cleaner, and all that stuff, and then it turns out that's complete bullshit. And I didn't find out till the next, I get home, I look it up, I'm like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things the doctor said to me was, he said, well, look, we take out appendixes, but only when something goes wrong with them. Right, so the force now. And I looked at him and I said, well, that's fantastic. That is, I don't have a foreskin and I don't have a fucking appendix. I've lost the lottery of life. And my tonsils went as well. It's a miracle. It's a miracle I'm still in.
Gone.
The appearance argument is a particularly bad one, though. It's if you said to a woman, look, I think you should get your genitally altered surgically, or we should do this to you say, you're talking to your wife, we should do genital circumcision of some kind to our daughter. And she was like, well, that's horrible. Why would we do that? And your response was, well, they look better.
Yeah, exactly.
What a weird response.
Right.
However, I even though the circumcision of males has an origin in religion, it did sort of serve a practical purpose. And as a person who's had it done, it's a way smaller price to pay than cutting off a clitoris. The idea of cutting the clitoris off undoubtedly stems from a culture / religion that doesn't want females to have any sexual enjoyment. Because a man who's been circumcised, if they weren't having sexual enjoyment, I'd be very surprised. Because let's face it, they're still out there, putting it about. And then most men are still very proud of their penis because it's where they keep their brains. So
that's sexist.
Thank you. Well, what's wrong with being sexy? There's nothing wrong with that. So, I think in the past you could mount an argument for male circumcision, i.e. that, but I don't see anywhere you could mount an argument for female circumcision, other than to say you're imposing pretty much a barbaric horror upon this poor girl.
I can recognize the magnitude difference you're talking about, obviously, but it still all seems to be part of the same kind of religious background obsession, this kind of superstitious obsession with sexuality. Always talking about genitals, but you talk to someone who's religious and God can tell them all this stuff about what you do with your dick or your vagina. It's like, really? Like, he's got the whole universe to run.
Yeah, and it all stems back from when we were a very patriarchal species, especially, well, there was no real first world yet, where, the whole thing was the men were just trying to control the womb of women's, for reproduction rights. So that's why many religions have things like no sex before marriage. They didn't really care about the men not having sex before marriage as much as the women, because they wanted to make sure that the womb was fine. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fucked up. And then they used religion over the years to get what they wanted, which they already wanted. So they just write in these stupid little rules about, like, take a look at Muhammad, for instance. Like, he put in that, like, men can have many wives.
You're not allowed to take a look at Muhammad. People have been shot for it.
Good point. He wrote that. He didn't write because he was an illiterate fuck. But
Come out and say what you really think.
But he mentioned that God told him that he could marry more than one woman. But when his daughter's suitor wanted him to take a second wife, he's like, nope, you can't do that. So I mean, it's very telling of what they do is like, do as I say, not as I do.
My background was I was a Christian. I was a true believer. Like, I was what you call a fundamentalist. And when I got older and I started questioning a lot of in particular the literal interpretation of the Bible, I got to tell you, it started being like a weight off of my shoulders when I started realizing that I didn't have to assume that this needed to be interpreted and seen the way I had been raised, because it's so much effort to believe that makes sense. When if you look at it as the point of view of people writing it over a period of time and then passing it around, it starts making so much more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, use that excuse when you're standing at the pearly gates explaining it to God.
I don't think Odin's going to care.
When he turns around and says, "You're right, I am a total bastard."
So have any of you guys been watching the South Park episodes going on this season?
Yes!
Oh, yes.
No.
Yes.
Jay, you gotta watch them, man. They gotta watch them. They're awesome.
Okay,
Yes,
I'll
I was
check
going
them
to
out.
say, I long gave up on South Park, but my son has discovered it recently and is crazy for it. And someone put up the first episode with the social justice thing, and so I accidentally downloaded them somehow. I fell on my computer. I was wandering across just to get a glass of water, and my elbow. I don't know,
You slipped on your prayer rug.
That's right.
Well, I had scissors in one hand and because I'd only got through saying to him, "Yeah, didn't you used to watch it, Dad?" And I went, "Yeah, I used to, but I kind of, I got a bit." Plus, I didn't like them attacking the Family Guy people. But anyway, yeah, this last 6 episodes, an absolute, in my opinion, return to form for South Park. And my son's looking at me with PC Principle and all the other shit, and he's sort of saying, "Dad, are there really people like that?" And I kind of went, "Well, yes." I know they're playing it up. I know they're playing it up for what it's worth, but in a way, son, yes.
I'll check them out then.
Yeah, this whole season has been there. They decided to go after the SJWs.
Yes, it's been glorious.
I think one of the things I've enjoyed most is watching the PC Principal, as he's known.
Yes.
Be just so incredibly violent and just shutting people down whilst espousing the virtues of equality and letting people have free speech. I think they've really nailed it with this one. I really do have to say it. I have been very impressed. I didn't think I would pretty much ever watch a South Park episode again, but guess what? I was right.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you. I stopped watching them a couple freaking years ago. Like, it was right after I got out of high school, pretty much. I stopped watching them, and then I'll check it out.
Yeah, it is very much worth it. And so, you know, there have been some great things with popular culture, like even with the Family Guy stuff. And yet again, I have to thank my son. He's way too young to be watching that stuff. But he was the one who once put one of the Family Guys on, and he said, "Watch," and I just went, "Oh, look, no, it's just all these cartoons. They're nothing more than a rip-off of The Simpsons," I said, which, by the way, has also jumped the shark. And then I actually, he nagged me to the point where he said, "Just sit and watch it for 10 minutes." And I sat and watched it for 10 minutes, and I suddenly went, "Oh, this actually is very good." And, of course, wonderfully based on All in the Family. I mean, Peter Griffith and Lois are Archie, in many ways, are Archie and Edith Bunker. You know, just brought up for modern things, but wow, you know, they really are. And then the more I got to know it,
That's who Seth MacFarlane modeled them after.
Oh, yeah. And then I got to know about him, and actually sat on YouTube and watched a documentary of him making the cartoons with my son, because he didn't. He was way too young. Thank you very much. He was way too young to be watching that stuff.
It's the Safe Space musical number. That's this is it's Steven Seagal in the middle, and Vin Diesel over on the far left there, and PC Principal's over near the right.
Steven Saboom Boom.
Saboom Boom.
which is the great thing also with Family Guy, were the amazing amounts of references that they keep alluding, you know, they keep going to. And for younger people, they'll say, well, what's that about? You can actually say, well, they're actually parodying this or this or this. They're actually, apart from the fact that they're crass, disgusting, and should be banned, they're actually incredibly informative in many ways. And I did notice this about things like Grand Theft Auto and some of these games that children shouldn't be playing, is that on those games, they have all those radio stations.
Yes.
And the commercials are awesome.
Yes.
But the songs, so I have a son who's musical who's now coming to me and saying, you know, spouting out titles and songs from way back in yesteryear, where I sort of think, well, I don't know when you had the chance to be exposed to some of that stuff. And so, you know, for all of the Anita cesarean scar things, apart from the fact that I do look at those games myself, and I couldn't think of anything worse than sitting and playing them. And people say, aren't they great? And I look at them and I go, oh, fuck no. No.
See,
but that's just my personal thing. I couldn't play them. But I wouldn't stop you from playing them.
I do, because they're like interactive movies to me. Yeah, that's why I like playing them, especially Grand Theft Auto. This last one, the storyline was phenomenal.
They're taking on cultural significance now. Like, this is the role that television and movie had kind of a stranglehold on with the previous generation, right? And now games, you're talking about Grand Theft Auto, they are the forefront in fighting SJWism in video games. They're the ones that attract more hatred than anyone else. And as far as I know, they haven't buckled on anything.
There's actually a commercial in Grand Theft Auto 5 that makes fun of people who are too politically correct. There's another one that attacks veganism. They're hilarious.
And they're on the radio stations on the game, are they?
Yeah. Talk shows.
I'll have to check them out.
On the PC version, you actually get to make your own radio station. You can upload music, and then it's called is it called My Radio or something like that?
Right.
So you get to drive around and you listen to all your own music and stuff. But every once in a while, it'll have like a break and it'll like just make fun of you for being a complete narcissist for choosing your own music. Yeah, it's called My Radio or something like that. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that does sound good. I'll get him to check it. I'll get him to put it bits and pieces. But see, I mean, then I'm during that time I'm on my computer actually composing songs. So we're all using some sort of computer device. That's the only reason why I'm not really playing those games. I've sort of got to 50 whatever years of age. The last set of video type games I played were the Leisure Suit Larry games, which shows how far back I am. And people screamed about those. Remember them screaming on about those and how inappropriate they were? That's what drew me to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, like with the whinging and cesarean scar carrying on about give me money so I can make poxy videos and actually do fuck all, is that, and I saw this in one of the Thunderfoot videos, or it might have been Thorium or one of those, talking about this whiny minority that gets stuff shut down. Because like in Australia, the Target and Kmart stores in the end refused to stock Grand Theft Auto 5, which was stupid because it's not as if the game shops and the other stores didn't stock it. So you're really not stopping people from buying it.
It
All
was
you're
a
doing,
publicity stunt saying, "Look how family friendly we are."
Yeah.
but it's stupidity. And I was looking at some of that the other day on one of the vids. I can't remember what it was. It's on YouTube somewhere. As there was a bus company in Britain who had a picture of a woman who she was topless, but you couldn't see anything because she was holding up a sign saying "Ride me all day for £3," and
Awesome.
and on the buses as well, they had a very buff kind of guy who was a good-looking sort of male model type, and he was holding the same sign, "Ride me all day for £3." Well, the minority whingers got onto the bus company and shamed them into pulling the billboards off their buses. And they used examples of how much the vocal minority can do this sort of stuff. But then they cited a couple of companies who did things who absolutely fucking refused to do it. And their sales actually went up.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
that's like what we saw with Protein World.
Yes, that's them. That's them. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, and they had "Are you Beachbody ready?" and all the fucking land whales came out of their caves and said, "Oh, I'm Beachbody ready," and the sales shot through the roof. The owners absolutely gave no fucks. They went ahead with their campaigns, and good for them. I have even bought from them. Fuck that. I will support any company that puts a big fuck you to the face of these social justice warriors that just cannot handle reality. And
no,
fuck them. Fuck them.
See, and that's exactly right. And so people carry on stuff at this a bit on the radio with the vocal minority who didn't like my double entendres and stuff. But as I used to say to people, hey, guess what? Your radio has an off switch. Why don't you use it?
Yep.
If you are offended by this, guess what? Turn it off. Put something else on. Because if I walk down the street on any given day or any 24-hour day, I can name so many things that offend me. It doesn't give me the right to then ban them from other people. If I don't like it, I either need to speak up about it, whatever, or shut the fuck up, or whatever.
Well, children are also often used as an excuse to shut down conversation and claim moral superiority. There is a role for being concerned about kids. Obviously, we are all human and we feel that. But for instance, with my child, some parents wouldn't have let their kid play, say, Minecraft. Or a number of different things that she's watched or played online. She doesn't play. Actually, you know what? She has played Grand Theft Auto 5, and she is. Yeah, she just turned 8 a little while ago. But I was careful. This is the way I approach it with my daughter. I don't treat her like a stock child. I'm careful with what we're doing. I watch for her response, what she's taking out of it, right? So what she basically likes to do is to just run around with a character. She's not really attacking anybody. She doesn't really understand that part of the game at this stage. She just thinks it's funny that she can walk around.
Well, a similar
awesome.
thing with Family Guy. There were people with my son, oh, how could you, whatever, the Family Guy, and that's what I'm saying. We found the documentary on YouTube of Seth MacFarlane actually making them, watching Seth MacFarlane voice them, watching how the process happens. Because I sat him down and I said, look, you enjoy the cartoon. Do you have any idea of how these things are actually made?
Great.
And so as a very small child, he did in studios and various things and watched TV shows and things being made with the cameras, with the things. To establish a clear line of, look, this is make-believe. Mm-hmm. See, you watch it on a screen. Not everything you see on the screen is real. Understand that obviously this is a game. This is not real life. Yeah. You may run around shooting people and doing these things as we saw Warner Brothers cartoons as children watching Daffy Duck get his beak blown off. But to establish a clear link between what's reality and what's not. And I have some fairly rules with my son, and I say this is how it works. You're allowed a certain amount of stuff, and I'm permissive and stuff like that. But if you go out and act inappropriately, believe me, I'll be on you like a ton of bricks.
Right. Exactly.
There are places where things are appropriate. There are places where they aren't.
Well,
Start to develop some common sense, and if you fuck up, believe me, I will pull you up on it.
what I try to remind people of is to remember that your kid is a person. Is just a little person that you need to make limitations for. So, for instance, when we're talking about religion, my daughter believes in God. Her mom does, and I have never said to her. She asked me once. I told her Daddy doesn't believe in God, but I never once said to her, "You shouldn't." I've taken her to church. She's been in Sunday school class. I've never discouraged it at all. That's her thing, and she'll decide for it as she grows up. If she, for some reason, decided to start going around in school and telling other kids they're all going to burn in hell, then we'd have a talk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Well, and Corey hit on something that's extremely important a minute ago. Every child learns and grows and develops at a different rate than everybody else. So you can't just blanket say, well, kids shouldn't do this. Well, no, maybe your kid shouldn't do this.
Right.
And I was kind of the same way with my kids. There isn't a whole lot that, my kids are all teenagers now. My youngest one is 14. I had to do some math. But so at this point, there isn't a whole lot that they haven't either watched on TV or in the movies or a video game that they haven't played or whatever. But each child, I move them each along at their own pace because they are 3 different individual children, and each one was ready for things at a different time. So trying to blanket all children and say, well, okay, no kids should watch Family Guy, well, it's ridiculous because, your kid is not necessarily going to be as ready for it as mine is, or mine may not be ready at the same time that yours is.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, my kid loves Grand Theft Auto 5. He's 4, almost 4. He can't play it himself. He can't play it himself yet, but he likes watching people play.
Yeah.
Like that's
Boy,
what
It is funny. It's absurd. It's over the top. It should be funny to people.
Then I don't feel so bad about my kid being 10. And the thing with the atheism thing is he knows, yes, Dad's an atheism, and I did stop him from attending the Access Ministries thing in the school, which is now defunct.
Well, yeah, that's a little different. You're taking a stand on. I understand that. Yeah.
But when he said, well, what is it they're doing, I sat down with him and explained Christianity to him. Now, the funny thing is, when I drive around town here, being in a rural environment, we don't have a lot of choice for radio stations. And one of my most favorite stations is a very low-powered FM transmitter in town, which is 3 Angels Broadcasting Network, which is the radio station of the Seventh-day Adventists. And I am quite fascinated by that station, and I generally leave it on because it's actually more intelligent than listening to Power FM that's playing the drivel top 40. And so he said to me, hang on, why are you listening to this? And I said, well, in order to understand, why you're an atheist and a lot of things, you have to know about what it is you actually don't believe in. And when I listen to this station, it gives me an understanding of the people presenting and a way to try and find out why they believe what they believe. What is it about it? Now, he's as fascinated with the station as I am. And I'm not kidding. We listen to it a lot. Now, the stereotypical picture of an atheist, I suppose, by religious people is the thought that they would shield their children and keep them away from religion. But it's actually quite the opposite. I will explain as much as I possibly can to him. On the weekend, we actually went and played music at a church fete because he comes busking with me, and we didn't have anywhere else to go. Now, this is a bunch of old people, and they're part of the Anglican things, and it's scones and teas and whatever. Because it is a study of the fact is you share the world with lots of people, and you do need to see, the last thing I would hate to be thought of is being a militant atheist in the way like a person is a militant social justice warrior.
Very closed-minded. You become closed-minded.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. It's about realizing we share the world together, and okay, as long as we're not harming each other and being violent, you can't hate a person of faith.
There's a distinction. Because that term gets thrown around a lot.
Yes.
There's a distinction between being outspoken and being closed-minded.
Yes.
In my house, we are completely secular. We don't talk about religion at all. But if you were to come in and look around, you'd think that we believed in Thor, Odin, Freya, because we have all kinds of Norse mythologies type artwork, and our clothes. A lot of our clothes say it on there. So, yeah, like we have fun with it. We don't, of course, we don't believe those gods or exist. But my wife's got it. Yeah, has a Norwegian background, and I've got a Norwegian background too. So, our family history, and so we have fun with it. And I don't see anything wrong with that. So if my kid grows up saying "fucking fuck you, Thor," I'm not going to be upset.
I pretty much did the same with my kids. I've been an atheist my entire life, but I left it up to my kids. My parents did. They left it up to me to investigate and figure out what I wanted. And if I had questions, they answered them. My father was raised Catholic, and my mom is agnostic at best.
Yeah,
so they answered questions and let me kind of figure it out on my own, and I did the same with my kids. And I've got 2 atheists and an agnostic. So, and they got there on their own.
My mom is deist, and my dad's an agnostic atheist. So, I kind of grew up secular. I've never been a believer. I did go to church, but it was more for social convention than actually my parents believing in it. And actually, my Sunday school teacher when I was 7 was the one who pointed out that I was an atheist.
Well, when my daughter was, she's just so tiny still, and we were waiting for my wife to come back from, I forget what she was getting from the apartment, and out of nowhere, my daughter sitting in the back seat, she goes, "Daddy, do you believe in Jesus?" So now I'm an atheist already at this point, right? So I could have easily said to her, "That's all nonsense," right? But again, I said, "Well, no, I know that Mommy believes in it, but Daddy doesn't believe in it." And then she goes, "Well, Daddy, you have to believe in Jesus." And again, I didn't respond negatively. I just said, "Well, why do you say that?" And she goes, "Because Mommy believes, and Anya believes, and so Daddy needs to believe." Like, oh.
At least he didn't tell you you're going to burn in hell if you didn't.
And
that's when she's a teenager.
And so you can see why religion loves to get into the minds of children, can't you? Because they have such a black and white view of the.
Yeah.
That's why they. Oh, because the disgusting thing here is with Access Ministries more or less being booted out of the school during school time, they've now decided they're going to target childcare and kindergartens.
Jesus
They can
Christ.
take their message to even younger children, and it's like with as I said, with my son. If at the end of the process he comes out and says he's an atheist or whatever he is, I want him to come to that conclusion through obviously the power of his own mind and being informed. I would hate to think that he says, "I'm an atheist because Dad is one, because Dad would want me to be that way." No, I want
think for yourself. Yeah.
Think for yourself. That's the point. And when you come to the conclusion, I at least would like to think that you have been shown a lot of what goes on in varying religions, etc., etc. So you're not ignorant, because ignorance is very dangerous.
I think that's a great note for us to leave off on, because we're coming up on the 2-hour mark, and I promised you guys I would taper it off at some point.
Man, I'm glad I don't have any kids. I don't have to deal with it.
I want the 2 hours of my life back. You annoying me into being here.
Now,
I hate getting on and talking and carrying on. I just want a quiet life.
Kids, it's interesting that I've learned a lot from things that my daughter will do and say. It's kind of interesting that children teach us. I hope it's not their intention.
Out of the mouths of babes and drunks.
Right. But no, they do. My brother has twins, a niece and a nephew of mine. So, it's very rewarding for me to see them go through life and learn things. And, they just turned 5, and my nephew looked up in the sky at one point, and there were no clouds in the sky, but he points up and he goes, "What are those?" He says, "Those are contrails." I'm like, "You're 5 years old."
Right on. I'd be so proud.
I'm over the moon proud of my niece and nephew. They're ridiculously intelligent. But that being said, I'm glad I don't have to change their diaper, and I can.
Yeah, there you go.
I
And
can.
you're also able to remain cool in their eyes because you can show up and be like, Mom and Dad, they're worrywarts.
Right, I'm the cool lady.
Well, you know, I say treat them well because one day they'll be making decisions about you. So you know,
Yes.
it's one of those things. People often lose that perspective on children, and that's the point. You've got to hopefully, when you get to the point where you're old and decrepit, they look on you and say, "Yeah, he wasn't such a bad old dad or mum. Yeah, he was all right. I'll make sure he or she is okay. Won't put them into the nursing home where they bathe you in kerosene."
Right, and it's see, I think for me that's the crapshoot, because you don't know if your child is going to care enough about you, to take care of you in your older ages. So these people that have children, assuming that they're going to be there to take care of you, I think it's kind of naive, because we all grow up into our own people. It doesn't matter how well you think you raise your children. They can turn out to be the worst little shits on the planet.
Oh, they can.
There is no guarantee. So I think for me, parenthood is it's too much of a crapshoot. So I'll just opt out, and I will love my niece and nephew with everything that I have, and send them home at the end of the day and sleep peacefully till 10 o'clock in the morning.
Well, my daughter is studying to be a psychologist, so I'm very proud because me being a long-haired bum, I at least have one person who I'm going to be able to loan money off for a start. And this is where I'm pushing my son now into some sort of education because, let's face it, I mean, the long-haired bum gene has got to skip a generation. Their children can go out, be in rock and roll bands, have a good time, rock and roll all night, party every day. But someone's got to carry the can. And so I have said to my daughter now, this is on you, okay? And that's why I go to her house and I drink her scotch. And it's fantastic. I'm all for it. I'm all for it, especially when they grow up. Make sure, do the right thing by them, and you can loan money off them forever that you don't have to pay back.
If you're lucky.
Oh, I reckon I'll be all right.
All right, so why don't, before we go, I want to give you all a chance, again, to plug anything you want to plug.
4 minutes.
We'll start with Jay. Again. We'll go the same order.
I don't really have anything else to plug, but thanks for having me on.
All right, Lauren, you got anything you want to plug before you go?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, the Tom Likas Show. If you don't know who he is, he has a podcast. Well, it's appointment listening. It's 24/7 show online at blowmeuptom.com. He has some fascinating insights about life and relationships, and well, he doesn't really advise or for relationships. He advises against marriage and children. As you can see, I am a doting student of his prophecy. But A Voice for Men also, you can please come check us out over there. We are doing the International Conference on Men's Issue 2016 in London in July. It'd be great. Yes, I'm really trying to get out there. It would be great to see everyone there that can make it. It should be a blast. I'm really looking forward to that. Other than that, come find me on Twitter and we can destroy these feminists together. It's a team effort.
All right, Sheila?
All right.
Sheila, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there.
I don't know, I had an issue with internet for a minute. Well, I guess I'm not really doing any podcasting stuff at the moment. Like I said earlier, we're supposed to be getting back into doing Trolling with Logic hopefully soon. You can find me on Facebook. I'm there more than Twitter. I do have a Twitter, but I don't check in as much as I used to anymore.
I still poke at Lee Moore every now and then too about he'll say something on Facebook. I'll be like, now would be a good time to do some more A-News, don't you think?
I know. I miss doing A-News. I miss doing it a lot. I miss hanging out with those two. But, if I me on Facebook, and I'll definitely, if anything happens with either of those two podcasts, I will definitely post about it.
Also, if you let me know, I'll pass it along to people. I'll promote it on our stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to
Awesome.
hop on. That sounds amazing.
It was a good time. It was a good time, definitely.
And I'll put your face back up there, Robert, for the end here, so we can see your face when you're telling us all your lies.
Okay, you ready, folks? It's Robert Darby. I have a 12-inch pianist. He's a leprechaun. I said pianist. He's a leprechaun who tinkles on the ivories. Podcast, Dumbed Down Atheist, the Dumbed Down Atheist. In particular, come and listen to Gerald and Luther Tantrum Day, which is episode 125, which I notice is going through the roof in terms of people downloading it. I love yous all. And what else do I need to say? Robert Darby 902 Facebook. I do have a CD of some demo songs. If people come past and let me know, you better hurry. They're free for the moment. And yeah, listen, keep safe, sane, and consensual, and I'll smack your bum another time, baby.
Are you promoting that? What's it called? Not unlisted, unsigned.
Oh, unsigned. You can go to unsigned.com/Robert Darby. Unsigned.com. There's a little machine that'll play a whole bunch of songs to you. Then I don't have all of them there, but yes, you can go there. That's free to listen to. They do sound way better in CD quality, and I'm having a really good time these days. I'm sure some bastard will come along soon and fuck it up, but it's great.
Always happens.
I'll try to. All right. On that note, I know you're hinting. I'll try to get back on your show at some point.
Well, I've said to you a few times, but when you try to get on my show, the thing is, I just say it on the spur of the moment. I happen to be on, and I go, anybody there, and if you don't jump at it, it's gone, baby. So,
Yeah.
Gerald and Luther Tantrum Day, episode 125, Dumbed Down Atheist Podcast, at Spreaker, at iTunes, at Pod me up the wazoo. Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. It has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you guys being patient with me on the first run through of this. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
you.
I'm out, baby.
This should be like an every other week thing, I think, is what we're going to do. So at some point, it's always going to be different groups, so at some point you'll probably each get another request to be on the show again, and you'll never know who's going to be on there with you.
Hey, you get your people to talk to my people, too.
I'll get my imaginary agent talking to your imaginary agent.
Yeah.
If you ever do get Anita, whatever the fuck you call her, on the
Azarian.
show, I've got fucking dibs.
Okay. You have called it. Is that shotgun? Should I tell her you've got shotgun?
Yes.
Can I just say for a moment, her politics aside, she's actually pretty fucking hot.
I'd buy her all day for £3.
I probably could squeeze one out to her. I reckon I probably could.
Classic talk.
No, Anita,
with Robert Darby.
Listen, Anita, if you're listening, we could get together and do it, and I mean do it, right? And I won't kiss and tell. I won't blow your gig because we've all got to make our money, and there's no point, But sometimes, basically, dabbling with the enemy. No, I'm serious about that. She is pretty fucking hot, actually. And I did have a big, that one, that big red one, the red-haired one. Who's
Yeah.
Shut up, fuck, I'm reading. I would. I'm riding like a crazy bitch, saying, "Shut up, fuckface! Shut up, fuckface!" Because there is something about. There's just something about that it's a bit like wanting to fuck Sarah Palin, right? She's as dumb as dog shit, but at the same time, and Coulter's another one. I reckon it's pretty good, I see him. I mean, I know I'm shallow.
Nothing wrong with that.
I would, and I'm sure can you imagine what in trouble? with a bit of luck, they'll give me some bad publicity. I won't mind. But listen, Anita, if you're listening and you need a, I'll do it. We could do it. Okay.
I'll tell you what. Get you some publicity on Twitter. I'll try and get an audio clip of this together, and then I'll tag it to her, and then she can call you a misogynist on Twitter, and a bunch of people will.
I'm wondering if he would have a Brazilian.
A Brazilian?
I'm just wondering, yeah, Brazilian wax, no.
No.
Or do you reckon she'd be like really, really hairy?
I think there's hair coming out of every pore on that woman's body.
I'm guessing she's got dreadlocks.
I don't know. Feel a kind of, it's just something about it. I would. No, I mean in a wholesome way. I think I might have said too much.
Alrighty, guys.
All right.
I'll talk to you all soon.
That doesn't count as a rape threat, does it, by the way? Have I gone too far? Too much?
Shush! Well, you're still ahead slightly.
I'd let her spank me. I would let her spank me. I would even let her put a ball gag in my mouth. I would even do like I was saying before. You know the pegging where you put a little piece of ginger up someone's bum? I would let her do that to me. I would.
Oh my God, I love you.
Anyway, if you're listening, just get in touch with me. Your secret's safe with me. What happens on the road stays on the road, okay?
Anita, wherever you are, he loves you.
Big love, hun.
Big 12-inch raging hard on love.